New York was just kind of smaller than usual. The official schedule only had like 50-something designers on it, and even a year or two ago, it was like in the 70s.
I think the cost side of things has shown time and time again that maybe a runway isn't always the best way of spending, a small brand's money.
It's like not the sexiest question, but I do think it's an important one, which is it worth the investment?
No, nothing. No, really, no. You can spend it's like easily a fashion show is like £100,000.
I think especially today, doing a show is so expensive. Yeah. So I think number one, can you afford it? I mean, you don't want to put yourself out of business because you did a show.
I think the most specific comment was from Emma Gage, who I interviewed from Melky, and I interviewed her because I thought it was so intriguing that Hidden Valley Ranch was sponsoring her show, which was interesting. But she did share dollars that in the past when she had shown at Spring Studios, they paid upward of $70,000.
I actually spoke with one of the designers who did a show as part of their dinner this past week, and he said that obviously with the growth of bigger brands on the London Fashion Week schedule, like they can afford to, put on a show that's going to cost them like £1 million, for example. Whereas for a lot of these designers who are more independent, £30,000 is or I'd say that's like $40,000. It works out to be like a shoestring kind of show. Like this is something where you're going to be calling in favors. You're going to be asking for sponsors. It's not essentially like the kind of show that you'd like to produce if you have a bigger vision for it.
Given the costs of putting on a full-blown show, many brands have been opting to skip the traditional runway in favor of smaller Fashion Week events. In New York, the vibe I got from a lot of designers was that they're saving money by doing something small in February so they can, save up and do something big in September.
And I feel like sometimes doing unexpected things like not doing a show, it's more sustainable for the business because it costs way less and it's just easier in terms of then for the showroom, everything is in one size, and the buyers love that, so that they can actually see what's going to be like in that one size, and then it's just cheaper. And then later on, it didn't really affect as much doing show or not doing show.
So a lot of designers have been actually putting on smaller events and little dinners over the course of this week, even before London Fashion Week starts. And I think that has something to do, again, with the kind of wider economic situation. A lot of brands are, worried about how expensive putting on a show is. And so they're looking at different formats to, connect with their customers better, but also connect with press and kind of people they know in a smaller way. I think there's been conversations in New York that February is almost like the smaller fashion month season.
You can create so much more if you use that £100,000 in different small activations that are more consumer facing rather than a fashion show, then nobody can even have that product until much later. So if you break those down into small pockets which are much more consumer facing, then you get much more ROI on that. But then every now and then it is really good to do something that people really remember, whether it's an amazing party or a kind of outstanding presentation or show. But other times, why bother for every 6 months?
Tibby was one of the designers that said they're only doing a fashion show in September. February, they're going to do something smaller. This year, they brought in press. It was very intimate to come into a kind of a raw space where they had kind of a makeshift runway show. It was just the model walking, and they had a couple of different vignettes where different models were posing. There was good photo opportunities and also a chance to speak with Amy, the designer. However, anyway, off track, I heard more designers who were doing presentations say, we're only going to be doing a runway in September.
We're just having a very relaxed salon little kind of presentation today. We're not showing, we're just having a salon saying this is what we do, look how beautiful it is. And we're really happy with what we've got.
I think
runways can still be extremely important, but there's also the opportunity to actually interact in so many different ways. I do love the idea of everyone coming together at certain moments in time because it does, as a Scandinavian, feels efficient. But I do feel that you can go beyond what a runway experience is. It doesn't necessarily have to be this white runway that comes up and down. I love how people are getting more and more innovative. And I think that actually is what the customer and the fashion world also craves. So whether that is an experience, immersive or otherwise, I think that can be really engaging.
And so the costs of putting on a fashion show have also created a yearning for a return to the more consolidated format of Fashion Weeks past.
When I started, it wasn't as expensive. You know, everybody was at Bryant Park, so we kind of shared the cost. Now everyone's got to get their own place and kind of build their own set or whatever. You know, it's really expensive.
I think nowadays, you know, the smaller brands, as you said, without the kind of centralized infrastructure, which is something that we do still have in London. Most of the shows are held in one location. It allows the designers to share the venue, basically, and I'm sure that also keeps the costs down.
The British Fashion Council has worked with partners to have a pop-up shop in the centre of the greatest city in the world, Regent Street, to allow designers and brands to sell some of the fantastic clothes they've designed. It's a great way for the public to have access to Fashion Week. Often they're ticketed only events, but this is a great way for ordinary Londoners, shoppers, tourists to have access to some of the world's finest fashion.
But neither London nor New York are the only fashion shows on the calendar, which complicates the decisions for designers regarding which cities to show at.
Fashion Week has just totally changed. People coming through have changed. We can't rely on sales in one city. We have to have sales in multiple cities because not that many buyers come through London. So we've just met the buyers here of Bergdorf's, Neiman's and Saks. They're having a look, but they'll do their buying in Milan or Paris. So you have to make sure you're not just in one place because nobody just comes to London. The buyers are pretty much buying somewhere else, if I'm honest. So we have to kind of go with the flow, and we have to keep morphing and changing, and the whole industry is changing all the time.
All of that being said, showing during Fashion Week can be an efficient way of getting in front of potential customers, in part because of the content that can be created from these shows.
You know I don't play right. I'll put up a good fight. Just give me the word.
I mean, ultimately, it's a huge advertisement for the business, isn't it? It's an opportunity to show your fans and your customers and your audience and your business partners what you're all about. And then it is really like-minded individuals that come together and do business with you. So whether that be you're doing an investment round and you find that investor that loves what you're doing, or whether it's that, you know, you excite a whole consumer base and they want to be part of that magic that they fell in love with on the runway show. So I think it's invaluable for a fashion business.
It's promotion for what they're trying to sell. I think content and community was the reason, the ROI that they mentioned, as opposed to like any sort of a dollar value.
But yeah, it's always a conversation of like, what's going to be best for the collection for this Fashion Week? What's the best part for the business? What's going to, you know, create the most content that we really believe in?
You know, it's more than just Fashion Week to us. So it's really a 16 to 18 week plan of how these images will come to life for our brand.
In terms of return to investment, I guess like the more interesting I make the collection, the more we sell. People are looking for something very unique from us and not looking for something they can get elsewhere. So that would be my ROI.
Nice.